Right, hello everyone, and welcome to the Diesel Arsenal channel. Thanks very much for coming and joining me tonight on Diesel's YouTube channel. So tonight I'm going to talk to you about the Mary Celeste and what happened. We're going to talk about lots of different things, and I'm just about to go through that. So yeah, it's going to be a great show. I think there's lots of real interesting things here. So what we're going to talk about is going to talk about what the Mary Celeste is, what the story was, the stories to explain the mystery around the Mary Celeste, and then I'll tell you what I think. So guys, please don't forget to subscribe to Diesel Arsenal. Make sure you put a like on the video for Diesel as well. That'd be absolutely fantastic. Also, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Warren's Team Talk. You'll be able to find me just by doing a search in YouTube. And I'm on Insta as well. You can find me there. So yeah, that's me. I'm going to be doing a stream about the FA Cup second round. It's a preview of the game between Portsmouth and Milton Keynes Dons, which is taking place on Saturday. I'm doing my thing that I did last season with the FA Cup, following a team until they get knocked out. When they get knocked out, I follow the team that knocked them out. So it's very interesting. It's a good bit of fun and a lot of interesting information. So make sure you check that out. I'll probably be doing that, I think, tomorrow. So yeah, make sure you come and check that out. Okay, so what was the Mary Celeste? Okay, so the Mary Celeste was, as it says here, was a merchant brigantine, which is a sailing ship with two masts and at least two sails on the main mast. The main mast is the second and taller of the two masts. So what we're going to talk about now is the early life of the Mary Celeste. And Jess is in the Collins. Jess is in the Collins. Jess Collins is in the chat. Lovely to see you, Jess. I hope you're enjoying this, mate. This stream, I was asked by Jess, or suggested to me by Jess to do a stream about this, and I'm really glad that I did, because it's an unbelievable mystery, and hopefully we're going to talk about, we will be talking about some of the explanations that have been put forward. Some of them are a bit more outlandish than others, but we'll see. Right, so let's get into the early life of the Mary Celeste. The ship was constructed of locally felled timber in Nova Scotia with two masts and was rigged as a brigantine. She was launched on the 18th of May 1861 and given the name Amazon, and registered at nearby Parsborough on June the 10th, 1861. She was owned by a local consortium of 9 people, headed by Joshua Jewess. Among the co-owners was Robert McLean and the ship's first captain, who is the ship's first captain. For her maiden voyage in June 1861, the Amazon sailed to 5 islands to take on a cargo of timber for a passage across the Atlantic to London. After supervising the loading, Captain McLean became unwell, and because his condition worsened, the ship Amazon returned to Spencer's Island, where McLean died on the 19th of June. John Nutting Parker took over as captain and resumed the voyage to London, and in the course of which Amazon encountered further mishaps. She collided with fishing equipment in the narrows off Eastport, Maine, and after leaving London, ran into and sank a brig, which was a common smaller merchant sailing ship in the second part of the 18th century in the English Channel. Parker remained in command for 2 years, during which Amazon worked mainly in the West Indies trade. And in 1863, Parker was succeeded by William Thompson, who remained in command till 1867. These were quiet years where no further mishaps happened. But then in October 1867 at Cape Breton Island, Amazon was driven ashore in a storm and was so badly damaged that her owners abandoned her as a wreck. On the October 15th, she was acquired as a derelict by Alexander McBean of Glace Bay, Nova Scotia. So, let's move on. So, before we do that, I'm just going to deal with these chats. Tony Neri says, big up, Ron, and big up, cheers, both of you top men. Thank you very much, Tony. That's really kind of you to say that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Jez Collins says, Tony Neri, hi, mate. Warren stuff on this is awesome. Thank you, Jez. I really appreciate that. That's nice of you to say. Tony Neri agreed. Always love history shows. Looking forward to your next one on Arsenal. Yeah, me too. I am looking forward. I think it's tomorrow, so make sure you check that out. And Ennis Sports TV says hi. Hi, mate. Nice to see you. I hope you're well. And he says big up as well. So thank you very much, guys, for all your kind comments. I really appreciate that. So what we're going to talk about now is Benjamin Briggs becoming captain of the Mary Celeste. So Benjamin Briggs, he became captain of the Mary Celeste. In December 1868, the ship was registered with the Collector of Customs in New York as an American vessel under a new name, Mary Celeste. After several changes of ownership, the ship was finally seized by creditors who sold it to a consortium headed up by a James H. Winchester in 1869. And over the next 3 years, the makeup of the consortium changed several times before, in early 1872, the ship underwent a major refit, which increased her size substantially. And then on October 29th, 1872, the consortium was made up of Winchester with 6 shares and 2 minor investors with 1 share apiece. The remaining 4 of 12 shares being held by the ship's new captain, Benjamin Spooner Briggs. And this is where the story really gets going. Benjamin Briggs was born in Wareham, Massachusetts on April the 24th, 1835, one of 5 sons of sea captain Nathan Briggs, and all but one of the sons went to sea and 2 became captains. In 1862, he married his cousin, Sarah Elizabeth Cobb, and enjoyed a Mediterranean honeymoon on board his schooner, Forest King. 2 children were born, son Arthur in September 1865 and daughter Sophia Matilda in October 1870. Shortly after his daughter Sophia Matilda was born, Briggs invested in the Mary Celeste, and in October 1872, Benjamin took command of Mary Celeste for her first voyage following her extensive New York refit, which was to take her to Genoa in Italy. He arranged for his wife and infant daughter to accompany him, and his son was left at home with his grandmother. Right, so let me just get into who's that there. So Carl Walsh Gunner says, big up, Warren, looking forward to this. Well, I hope you're going to enjoy it, mate. It's a very, very interesting story, and it's as mad as hell. So, yeah, once again, please, guys, don't forget to put a like on the video and make sure that if you haven't done it already, that you subscribe to Diesel's channel, Diesel Arsenal. Absolutely brilliant content. And when he starts talking, there's no stopping the man. He's honestly, how he does it, I just do not know. I think it's superb. And I just love listening to him. And then also, please make sure you come and check out my channel, Warren's Team Talk. I'm going to be doing, I think, a stream tomorrow about the FA Cup and a preview of the second round match between Portsmouth and Milton Keynes Dons. Now, there is a reason why I'm doing a preview for that match in particular, and it's because Portsmouth are now the Warren's Team Talk selection for this year's FA Cup, and I'll be following them until they get knocked out in the FA Cup. And then when they get knocked out, I'll be following the side that knocked them out. So that's how it works. Also on Saturday, I'll be doing my normal match day live show, and that will start at 2:30, and I'll be covering all the FA Cup second round matches. So make sure you come and check me out. And there's a good few videos coming up in the next few days. So yeah, make sure you check me out. Right, so Benjamin Briggs chooses his crew. For the Mary Celeste's first voyage to Genoa in Italy, Briggs chose the crew with care. First mate Albert G. Richardson had sailed under Briggs before. Second mate Andrew Gilling, aged about 25, was born in New York and was of Danish extraction. The steward, newly married Edward William Head, was signed on with a personal recommendation from James H. Winchester, a member of the ownership consortium. Well, I think he was the head person in the consortium, to be honest. The 4 general seamen were all Germans from the Frisian Islands, a group of islands off the coast of Holland, Germany, and Denmark in the North Sea. 2 brothers, Volkart and Bos Lorentzen, Ariane Martins, and Gottlieb Goodeschaff. Goodeshaw. Sorry about my pronunciation. So that was a bit difficult, to be honest. A later testimonial described them as peaceable and first-class sailors. What I find interesting about this whole thing, about this particular bit of the story, is, and it's not really connected to the mystery, is the fact that Briggs took his wife and his 2-year-old daughter on the voyage. And the reason I find it interesting is that for hundreds of years, it was regarded as being unlucky to have a woman on board by sailors, particularly like at this time and before. Like, they get really like fidgety about it and really nervous if they knew there was a woman on board. So, and I know it mentions it in the Pirates of the Caribbean film, but it is actually true that sailors were very superstitious and they would worry about things like that. So let's move on. So the Mary Celeste set sail from New York. On October the 20th, 1872, Briggs arrived in New York City to supervise the loading of the ship's cargo of 1,701 barrels of alcohol, and a week later, his wife and infant daughter joined him. On the morning of Thursday, the 7th of November, the Mary Celeste left New York with Briggs, his wife and daughter, and 7 crew members, which included a delay of 2 days because of poor weather. At the same time as the Mary Celeste were preparing to leave New York, the Canadian ship Del Gratia, which was to play a big part in the Mary Celeste story, was in docks at New Jersey awaiting a cargo of petroleum destined for Genoa via Gibraltar, and both Captain David Morehouse and First Mate Oliver Dearview of Nova Scotia were both highly experienced and respected seamen. And on the 15th of November, the Del Gratia departed for Gibraltar, and it followed the same general route as the Mary Celeste had done 8 days earlier. So, by the 4th of December 1872, the Del Gratia had reached midway between the Azores and the coast of Portugal, and the Del Gratia's helmsman reported that a vessel approximately 6 miles, 9.7 kilometers away from them was headed in their direction in an unsteady fashion. When Captain Morehouse came on deck, Captain Morehouse suspected something was wrong when he saw that the Mary Celeste was moving erratically, and her sails were set in an odd way. And then, as the Mary Celeste drew closer, he could see that there was no one on deck, and he had not received any replies from the signals that he had sent. And so after that, he sent Deville and his second mate, John Wright, to investigate. So the Mary Celeste is abandoned. Wright and Deville found on the ship, sailing in an erratic fashion, was the Mary Celeste by the name on the ship's stern. And then when they climbed on board, they found that the ship was in fact deserted. And in addition to this, the pair found the sails to be partly set and in a poor condition, and some were even missing altogether. As well as much of the rigging was damaged, with ropes hanging over the sides. The main hatch cover was secure, but others found to be open, with the covers beside them on deck. And the ship's single lifeboat was missing, and the glass cover of the housing for the ship's compass was broken and it had shifted. There was found to be about 3.5 foot, 1.1 metre of water in the hold, which was a considerable amount, but not enough to cause concern, and a sounding rod, which is a piece of equipment used to measure the water in the hold, was found abandoned on deck. They found that the ship's daily log in the mate's cabin and its final entry were dated as 8 a.m. on November the 25th, 9 days earlier. It recorded Mary Celeste's position then as of Santa Maria Island in the Azores, nearly 400 nautical miles, 740 kilometers from the point where the Del Gratia found her. Deville found that the cabin interiors were wet and untidy from water, but they otherwise seemed to be in reasonable order. However, in Briggs' cabin, he found personal items scattered around, but he did find a sheathed sword under the bed. But most of the ship's papers were missing, along with the captain's navigational instruments. The food stores of the ships were well stocked. There were no signs of violence or a fire, and given all the evidence that was discovered on board, as well as the lifeboat being missing, it seems that the Mary Celeste was departed in an orderly fashion. So, Deville, excuse me, sorry. Deville reported his findings to Morehouse, and he made this decision to divide his crew in half and instructed one half of his crew to sail the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar. But because both ships were seriously undercrewed, progress proved to be slow. So by the 12th of December, Del Gratia reached Gibraltar, and the Mary Celeste arrived the next morning. It should be noted that under maritime law, a sailor could expect a substantial share of the combined value of rescued vessel and cargo. The exact amount that he could expect to receive would depend on the level of danger involved in salvaging the ship. Now, as soon as the Mary Celeste arrived in Gibraltar, she was impounded by the Vice Admiralty Court to prepare for the salvage hearings. And in a letter to his wife, Deville said he expected to be well paid for the Mary Celeste, and in his experience of bringing the ship was a hard one. So we go and talk about the salvage court hearings in Gibraltar now. The salvage court hearings began in Gibraltar on the 17th of December 1872 and was conducted by Frederick Solly Flood, Attorney General of Gibraltar, and he was well known as being an arrogant man who, once he had made up his mind about something, couldn't be shifted. The testimonies of Deville and Wright convinced Flood unalterably that a crime had been committed and that alcohol had likely played a large part in it. So on December the 23rd, Flood ordered an examination of Mary Celeste, and this was conducted by John Austin, surveyor of shipping, with the assistance of a diver, Ricardo Portanato. Austin noted cuts on each side of the bow, caused, he thought, by a sharp instrument, and found possible traces of blood on the captain's sword. His report emphasised that the ship did not appear to have been struck by heavy weather, citing a vial of sewing machine oil found upright in its place. So, murder most foul, or was it? Now, you see, at this point, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, well, someone's murdered the crew and all the people on board, and that's the end of it. But was it? Portanato's report claimed that the ship had not been involved in a collision or run aground, and a further inspection by a group of Royal Navy captains endorsed Austin's opinion that the cuts on the bow had been caused deliberately. They also discovered stains on one of the ship's rails that might have been blood, together with a deep mark possibly caused by an axe. These findings strengthens Flood's suspicions that human wrongdoing rather than a natural disaster lay behind the mystery, which led him to conclude that the crew had murdered the Briggs family and that the ship's officers, in a drunken frenzy, and that they had cut the bows to simulate a collision, and then fled the ship, and then fled in the ship's only lifeboat to suffer an unknown fate. Flood thought that Morehouse and his men were hiding something, specifically that the Mary Celeste had been abandoned in a more easterly position, and that the log had been doctored. He could not accept that the Mary Celeste could have travelled so far without any crew. Now, James Winchester arrived in Gibraltar on the 15th of January to ask when the Mary Celeste might be released so that he could deliver her cargo, and in response, Flood demanded a fee of $15,000, money which Winchester did not have. Winchester then became fully aware that Flood thought Winchester might have deliberately engaged a crew that would kill Briggs and his officers as part of some conspiracy. And on the 29th of January, during a series of sharp exchanges with Flood, Winchester testified to Briggs' high character and insisted that Briggs would not have abandoned the ship and except in extreme circumstances. Flood's theories of mutiny and murder received significant setbacks when scientific analysis of the stains found on the sword and elsewhere on the ship showed that they were blood. And then on top of this came a report commissioned by Horatio Sprague, the American consul in Gibraltar, from Captain Schufelt of the US Navy, and concluded that the marks on the bow were not man-made but came from the natural actions of the sea on the ship's timbers. With nothing further to support his suspicions, Flood reluctantly released Mary Celeste from the court's jurisdiction on the 25th of February. 2 weeks later, with a locally raised crew headed by Captain George Blatchford from Massachusetts, the Mary Celeste left Gibraltar for Genoa. Then on the 8th of April, Cochrane announced that the award of £1,700, which was approximately 1/5 of the total value of the ship and the cargo, and this was far lower than expected. The figure expected would be anything between twice or 3 times that amount, given the level of hazard bringing the ship into port. Cochrane's final words were harshly critical of Morehouse for his decision earlier in the hearing to send Del Gratia under Deval to deliver her cargo of petroleum, and Cochrane's tone carried an implication of wrongdoing, which it was believed would ensure that Morehouse and his crew would be under suspicion in the court of public opinion forever. So that I found quite interesting, to be honest. So yeah, guys, please make sure you put a like on the video for Diesel and me. Please make sure you subscribe to Diesel's channel if you haven't done it already. And please make sure that you go and check out his videos, because this guy is amazing. The stuff he does on his channel is absolutely superb. He could talk for England, this fella, no doubt about it. Please subscribe to my channel as well, Warren's Team Talk. You can find me by typing in Warren's Team Talk into YouTube and it will come up. I'm doing a show tomorrow about the FA Cup, probably. And then also on Saturday, I'm doing my normal 2:30 start match day live show, which will be about the FA Cup second round. So that'll be interesting, I'm sure. And it's usually great fun and a lot of banter. So please make sure you come and check that out. Right, okie doke. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at some of the theories associated with what happened with the Mary Celeste. So we are, first one, foul play. The evidence at the salvage hearings in Gibraltar failed to support Flood's theories of murder and conspiracy. However, despite this suspicion of foul play continued, Flood and some newspaper reports briefly suspected insurance fraud on the part of Winchester because the Mary Celeste had been heavily overinsured. But Winchester was able to deny these allegations, and the insurance companies that issued the policies did not carry out an investigation. In 1931, an article in the Quarterly Review suggested that Morehouse could have lain in wait for the Mary Celeste and then lured Briggs and his crew aboard Del Gratia and killed them there. But Paul Begg argues quite correctly, in my opinion, that his theory ignores the fact that Del Gratia was the slowest ship and she left New York 8 days after the Mary Celeste and would have not caught Mary Celeste before she reached Gibraltar. Another theory suggests that Briggs and Morehouse were partners in a conspiracy to share the salvage proceedings. The unsubstantiated friendship between the two captains has been cited by commentators as much making such a plan a plausible explanation. Hicks comments that if Morehouse and Briggs had been planning such a scam, they would not have devised such an attention-drawing mystery. He also asked why would Briggs leave his son Arthur behind if he intended to disappear permanently. Another suggested that an event was another suggested event was an attack by Riffian pirates who are active off the coast of Morocco in the 1870s. However, Charles Edafay observes that pirates would have looted the ship, yet the personal possessions of the captain and crew were left undisturbed, and some of these possessions were of significant value. In 1925, historian John Gilbert Lockhart surmised that Biggs slaughtered all on board and then killed himself in a fit of religious mania. Lockhart later spoke to Briggs' descendants and apologized and withdrew this theory in a later edition of his book. So, so the next one we're going to talk about is the lifeboat. So the lifeboat theory. It has been claimed that the transfer of personnel to the lifeboat may have been intended as a temporary safety measure. The reports from Duval of the state of the rigging and ropes, that the ship's main rope may have been used to attach the lifeboat to the ship would allow the people who had left the ship to return to the ship when the danger had gone. But had the Mary Celeste come parting from the ship's main rope, it would have drifted away with its occupants. Begg notes how illogical it would have been to attach the lifeboat to a vessel that the crew had thought was no longer safe for them to be on board. MacDonald Hastings points out that Briggs was an experienced captain and asks whether he would have effected a panicked abandonment. If the Mary Celeste had blown her timbers, she would have still been a better bet for survival than the ship's boat. If this is what happened, says Hastings Briggs, if this is what happened, said Hastings, Briggs behaved like a fool, worse, a frightened one. And then Arthur N. Putman, a New York insurance appraiser, was a leading investigator in sea mysteries in the early 20th century and wrote a similar lifeboat theory. Putman had laid special stress on the fact that only a single lifeboat was missing from the vessel. He discovered that the rope of the boat was cut, not untied, which indicated that when the Mary Celeste was abandoned, it was done quickly. Several times in the ship's log, there is mention of an ominous rumbling and small explosion from the hold. Cargoes of petroleum, though, naturally give off explosive gas, and these sounds described are quite common. He supposes that one day there was a more intense explosion, and a sailor ventured below deck with a light or a lit cigar, which set off the accumulated fumes, causing an explosion violent enough to blow off the top covering of the hatch, which had been found in an unusual position. Putnam ends his theory by saying that in a panic terror, the captain, family, and crew piled into the lone lifeboat, and cut the rope and set out to sea, abandoning the vessel. So let's move on. So the next one we're going to talk about is a supposed survivor's account by Abel Fosdyk. Now, Abel Fosdyk, in 1913, the Strand magazine provided an alleged survivor's account from Abel Fosdyk. Abel Fosdyk, supposedly the Mary Celeste steward, was apparently the Mary Celeste's steward. Now, in this version, the crew had gathered on a temporary swimming platform to watch a swimming contest. And then when the platform suddenly collapsed, all except Fosdyk were drowned or eaten by sharks. The Strand magazine put forward this story as a serious solution to the mystery, but it contained many simple mistakes, such as getting names of key people wrong, including Griggs for Briggs, Boyce for Morehouse, and Briggs' daughter as being a 7-year-old child rather than a 2-year-old, and that there was a crew of 13, and an obvious ignorance of nautical language. So the Laurence J. Keating story, many more people were convinced by a hoax of the 1920s put forward by the Irish writer Laurence J. Keating, again presented as a survivor story of one John Pemberton. This one told of a complex tale of murder, madness, and collusion with Adele Gratia, and this one also included basic errors such as using Conan Doyle's name, Marie Celeste rather than Mary Celeste, and misnaming key personnel. Nevertheless, the story was so convincingly told that the New York Herald Tribune of July 26, 1926, thought its truth was beyond dispute. The next one is attack by a giant octopus or squid. Now, this one isn't as crazy as it may sound. Chambers' Journal of the 17th of September, 1904, suggests that the entire complement of Mary Celeste was plucked off one by one by a giant octopus or squid. Now, according to the Natural History Museum, giant squid can reach 15 meters or 49 foot in length and have been known to attack ships. So that's why I said it's not as crazy as what it sounds. But that's where my suspicion of it being attacked by a giant octopus or squid stops. Begg remarks that such a creature could conceivably have picked off a crew member, but it could hardly have taken the ship and all the captain's navigation's instruments. Other explanations have suggested paranormal intervention, and an undated edition of the British Journal of Astrology described the Mary Celeste story as a mystical experience, connecting it with the great period of Giza, the lost continent of Atlantis, and the British Israel movement. The Bermuda Triangle has been invoked as well, and even though the Mary Celeste was abandoned in a completely different part of the Atlantic, similar fantasies have considered theories of abduction by aliens in flying saucers. Now, of all those things that I've just mentioned, pyramids and Atlantis and Bermuda Triangles, for me, that's the most convincing one about the people being abducted by aliens. So, yeah, well, there's more come, people, so stay with me. Listen, make sure you put a like on the video for me and the main man himself, Diesel. And make sure you, if you haven't done it already, subscribe to Diesel's channel. Absolutely top man, lovely fella. And I just love listening to Diesel talking. It's absolute superb stuff. And also, he does great content. He really, really does. So make sure you show him some love. And please also make sure you check my channel out, Warren's Team Talk. I'll be doing a show on tomorrow about the FA Cup. And also I'll be doing a stream on Saturday at 2:30. That is my usual Saturday afternoon show where I'll keep you up to date with what's going on in football matches that are kicking off at 3:00. And this weekend I'll be focusing on the FA Cup second round because it's FA Cup second round day. So that's always a big one. I'm old school and I love the FA Cup. So yeah, it'd be great. It's a great banter, good laugh as well, and an opportunity to have a good chat. So yeah, come and check it out. It'll be brilliant, I'm sure. So, waterspouts. Now, a violent waterspout may explain the disappearance of the Mary Celeste crew. The state of the ship, when found, was seaworthy, but worse for wear. The sails were ragged, and there was water in the ship's bilge. A waterspout would have caused low barometric pressure, which could have forced water from the bilge up into the ship's pumps. And because of this, the crew may have believed that the Mary Celeste had taken on more water than it actually had and was about to sink. As a result, they abandoned ship. Now, waterspouts, in that picture, that's quite a good thing of what happens. They just like all this water shoots up out of the sea, and I've never ever seen one myself, but that's what people have told me about that. So it's a bit mad, but it would explain the in the hold and all this carry on. Sea quakes. If an earthquake on the seabed had taken place, the resulting turbulence could have damaged the cargo of denatured alcohol, displaced hatches to the point of a possible inspection of the cargo and airing the fumes. However, the barrels were damaged. This could have been led Captain Briggs to fear that the ship was about to explode. Now, I'm not convinced about the sea quake story. The reason being is because there was that bottle of oil that they found in the ship that was undisturbed and hadn't been displaced. So I'm not convinced about that. I'm more convinced about the Waterspouts one, if I'm honest. So let's move on. And that's the sea quakes, people. There you go. So it just shows like the earthquake and it coming up and what it does to the sea. So the next one is alien abduction. Now, this, you're probably thinking, hey, he's off again. Warren's on one. But look, the ship was found with no one on board in the middle of the ocean, right? The lifeboat was missing and some of the ship's instruments were missing. So the fact that the ship was abandoned and they were in the middle of the ocean, it could have been an alien abduction, but the thing that goes against it is the fact that the lifeboat was missing, right? Because why would the lifeboat be missing if they'd been taken up by an alien spaceship? It doesn't make any sense. And why would they have taken up the equipment? Because they wouldn't have had time. The alien spaceship would have just come along, whoosh, and whipped them up, and that was it. End of story. So, in order to get this explained, right, what we need to do, we need to find. Well, I'm talking to you now about what my thoughts are. In order to get an explanation for this, we need to find a reasonable explanation about why the whole ship was completely abandoned, right? And why the lifeboat was missing and why some ship's instruments missing. And also, don't forget as well, in the captain's cabin, they said that they found it in a state of disarray and there was papers all over the way. It might have been that it was just a messy guy and that's how he worked. I know I've known people that are like that are messy workers and they have papers all over the place and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, that is possible, but not just the lifeboat thing. And the state of the ship leads me to think that they left. And one of the people that inspected the ship when it went for the salvage hearings, I believe, stated that it had looked like it had been abandoned in an orderly fashion. So, I mean, for me, I just find it all a bit odd. I'm completely baffled as to what it is. Please put in the comments what you think, what the hell happened here, because I have to be honest. I really don't know. I've read it, I've studied this for about a week or so now. I've looked in it, I can't figure it out. It's just crazy. I really don't understand what's happened here. I don't, honestly don't. I think the most likely scenario, I don't think people were murdered, but I do think that they abandoned ship. Why? That's the big question. Why the hell they did it? Maybe it's got something to do with all the bangings and the water in the hold and whatnot. Maybe they thought they were going to sink. I don't get it. I really don't, because this captain was apparently an experienced sailor, and he captained vessels before, so it would take quite a lot to make him abandon ship like that. And the crew were experienced as well. So, and none of them stayed behind, and there was nothing in the captain's log, so it looks like they went quite quickly. So, honestly, I don't know why they abandoned ship, but they obviously have. But what I find interesting is that not one of them appears to have come forward and given their story. And as far as I can see, there's no no records of any survivors ever being found anywhere. So, and the interesting thing is this story. I don't know about other countries, but in the UK, if you go into a building and there's no one there, people will often say, "Look at it in here. It's like the bloody Mary Celeste in here. There's no one around," and it is a term used to associated with abandonments or places just being completely empty and devoid of people. So it's very, very odd. It really is. I'm completely baffled. I really am. I don't know what to say about it. But if anyone has got any theories that I haven't mentioned already, please put it in the comments. I'd love to read them and see what you've got to say, because I don't know. And I want to know. I want to know what happened. So, guys, we've almost come to an end. We talked about what the Mary Celeste was. We've looked at the story of the Mary Celeste up until the point that it became abandoned. Then we looked into some of the theories as to what could possibly explain the mystery, and I've told you what I think. So there's not much more to say, really, except for make sure you put a like on the video for Diesel and me. If you haven't done it already, please subscribe to Diesel's channel. That'd be absolutely superb. Also, please make sure you subscribe to my channel on Team Talk. Don't forget to come and check out my stream tomorrow, where I'll do the preview of the Portsmouth versus Milton Keynes Dons FA Cup second round match. And then on Saturday, 2:30, make sure you come and check out my show where I'm going to focus on the FA Cup second round matches that are taking place at 3:00. It's usually a good laugh and very enjoyable show. So please make sure you come and check that out, and make sure you subscribe to my channel and put a like on the video, please. I'd really, really appreciate that. And Jess is in the chat. So Jesse's saying, awesome stuff, mate. How you find all this is amazing. Mate, I'll tell you what I do. I do Google searches, and I use Wikipedia as well. That's very useful. And then stuff that I've learned over the years from studying this sort of stuff. So, but thank you for your kind words, Jez, and I'm glad you enjoyed it, mate. I really enjoyed looking into it. So that's it, guys. Thanks very much for watching. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And I'll be back soon with another one, hopefully in a couple of weeks or so. I'm not sure what it's going to be about yet. I've got a few ideas. I spoke to Diesel earlier today about maybe some ideas. So we'll see. But anyway, as always, if you've got any ideas about anything you want me to talk about, because this idea that we did today, this show today, came from Jez. So thanks for that, Jez. I really appreciate that. Tony Neri says, agreed, Jez, and thanks for on good stuff. Thank you very much, Tony. I'm glad you enjoyed it, mate, and I hope everyone else did. And like I said, please put in the comments your thoughts and about what you think has caused this to happen. I'll be really, really interested to hear, because like I said, I ain't got a clue. I haven't. I've got some suspicions and maybe ideas, but nothing concrete. And I really want to know, because it's bugging me, man. It really is. Anyway, guys, thanks very much for watching. I'm going to go now. Have a great rest of your day. And like I always say with these shows, please, please, please look after yourselves, your friends, your family, and make sure you keep your eyes on the skies, yeah? You never know what you're going to see. Anyway, take care, everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.